What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about the future of Resident Evil. So moving forward from the initial launch of Requiem to DLC and things like that. Also just moving forward into like the future games of the franchise. So it's no secret that Requiem did well, right? 5 million units in 5 days, breaking many records in the gaming industry, also in the own franchise itself. And with that huge success, they decided to announce DLC and future plans for Requiem not even 2 weeks after the initial launch. They've been rolling out updates, patches for little bugs and glitches here and there. They also announced there's going to be a mini game coming around the time of May, I believe. Photo mode is a highly requested feature apparently, so they're working on that as well. That should be coming out relatively soon. And then they also announced a DLC that's going to be coming out probably in a year or so. That seems to be still in like early development. They didn't give us any specific details, but the way they spoke about it, they made it seem that it didn't start too long ago. And I wouldn't be surprised if we look at Resident Evil Village. The DLC for that came out, I think, about a year and a half after the initial game. And typically their DLCs are pretty substantial. They're at least a few hours long. Resident Evil 8, I think, was at least 2 or 3 hours long. We look at Separate Ways for RE4 remake, that is like 4 hours long. With this one, I wouldn't be surprised if they go bigger and beyond with this DLC. Requiem was such a huge success, so I'm sure they'll have to put a lot more time and effort into it. I'm sure that's what they want to do. Now, in terms of what the DLC could actually be, a lot of people are just thinking and assuming it's going to be revolving around Leon and Chris. If not Chris, then Leon for sure. But I'm leaning more toward Leon and Chris. The way they said it, they made it seem like Leon and Chris are going to run into each other at some point later on. And then there is another rumor going around that this DLC is actually going to take place before Requiem. Now, I don't know how much I believe that one, just because, at the end of the game, Leon says, yeah, I'm sure I'll run into him, Chris, him, at some point. Would it really make sense for him to say that if it already happened, if the DLC was taking place before Requiem? It would definitely be cool to see the events before Requiem leading up to everything that happened. Maybe fill us in on what's going on with all these other major characters. But also, I do think it'd be cool to advance the story a little more with Leon and Chris and perhaps some other characters as well. The only reason I could see this DLC taking place before Requiem is so that they could save Leon and maybe Chris again for future games or a future game. Maybe they don't want to move too quickly and, progress the story too quickly. Maybe save that for another game. But I mean, this DLC, if taking place after Requiem, doesn't have to be months or years after Requiem. It could just be really a few weeks after, or, a couple months after. You don't have to put it a while after Requiem. I feel like that would be kind of crazy to do, to be honest. I know after all that, Leon kind of needs a break, but I mean, it'd probably be safer to just place this a few weeks or, at most a few months after Requiem. Another rumor I have seen is that there could be a possible Alyssa Ashcroft DLC, Grace's mother. Another thing I think would be really cool, maybe fill in some details with her. She seems like a cool character. She has been around for a while now. She's been in a couple other games, I believe non-mainline games. This is the first mainline game she's been in. Obviously, she can't be in future games because she's gone now, so it'd have to be taking place before. But I think we could always use more details, on things that happened in the past. In terms of other major characters that we haven't seen in Requiem, that we have seen in other games like Claire, Jill, Ada, I don't think we'll have DLC on them in this game, to be honest, just because they haven't been in this game at all. So unless it's them working together with Leon, then I don't think we'll have any sort of solo DLC with these other characters. The only one that I could see that happening for is Chris, and I don't even think if he's in this DLC, he's going to be solo. He's probably going to be with Leon. Okay, now moving on from Requiem remakes, right? So we actually kind of got some news that RE1, the very first Resident Evil game, is going to be getting a remake. It just started like early development. If this is true, which most likely it is because they have been remaking all the games, then this is most likely still years on years out. For a while now, actually, it's been rumored that a Code Veronica remake and maybe even an RE5 remake would be in development, and it probably still is, but that will probably be coming before RE1 remake. I think sources were leaning more toward a Code Veronica remake first over RE5. I'll take both, either one first, to be honest. It doesn't really matter for me. Definitely, I would like a RE1 remake just because I haven't played it, and I probably wouldn't play it unless it was remade. I know that would, it's kind of weird, right? But because they're remaking all these games, I kind of just prefer to wait until they're remade and just play them all. And now that it's almost confirmed that they're going to be remaking most of these games, I think I'll just wait for them to be remade and then play them all that way. I've already played most of the games, right? I haven't played or finished 7, I haven't played 8, but all the other games that involve most of these other major characters I have played, apart from like Code Veronica and these side games. I am really interested to see how they would handle a RE5 remake and maybe potentially even an RE6 remake, specifically 6, because that game, you know, it came out in 2012 and it's still really playable until today. Of course, you know, many people don't like the game because of its heavy action focus, but that doesn't take away from, you know, the gameplay itself. It doesn't necessarily feel old, right? It does kind of have maybe some tank controls, but the game doesn't necessarily need to be remade. I mean, you could even make an argument for RE5, though I think that game could really use a remake. But really, I'm mostly interested to see remakes for those games because of the co-op, you know, integration. How will they handle it? Will they take away the co-op aspect? Will they just kind of fill that in with AI that's like actual, like dedicated AI and not just filling in for a person? I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but nonetheless, I am excited for it. I know we're still years out from any of these other remakes, but I am excited for it. Honestly, Capcom's got such a hack with the Resident Evil franchise. It's kind of ridiculous if you think about it. They've got a whole bunch of games that are kind of stuck on, you know, past consoles, past eras. They can just keep remaking those as well as making new games in the franchise. Okay, now lastly, what could be next after Resident Evil Requiem, right? What game would be next? Who would be in this next game? Obviously, they did set up things with Leon. You know, they cured this man. They made this man look at least 5 years younger, so he can still do things. There's definitely still a lot of potential for this man Leon to be in future games, or at least one more game. The general idea before Requiem came out was that they were gonna tie things up with Leon and all these other characters, but that was not the case whatsoever. They actually opened it up even more for a character like Leon. Now the question is, will they make him the protagonist of the next game or move on to someone else again? And my answer is, I've got no clue. With Capcom and with Resident Evil, you never know, right? They have so many characters that they've established that they can just bounce back and forth between these other characters. They don't really stick to, you know, certain characters much. Obviously, we've had Leon a few times, we've had Chris a few times, we've had all these other big characters a few times, more than a few times, right? But they also switched over to Grace. They also switched over to Ethan Winters. Back in the old games, right? They switched back and forth between Leon, Claire, Jill, Chris. They introduced Sheva. They've introduced many other characters that you were able to play as in past games, so who's to say they won't do it again for the next game? Now, personally, I kind of think they should ride this hype that Leon has brought them back for Requiem, right? I don't think they're gonna do Grace again. I almost feel like her story's gonna be a one and done, at least for a while, unless they just pull in Ethan Winters again and bring Grace back for the next game. Don't know if they'll do that, but I don't know. I wouldn't mind having another Grace and Leon game. Yeah, it might feel repetitive, but depending on how you handle the story and all that, it could be really fun once again. Part of the charm and just why people liked Requiem so much is that it had this balance between horror and action with Leon and Grace. Now, if you ask me, I don't really think Resident Evil should ever go back to just having an action game by itself or having a horror-filled game by itself. I feel like Requiem satisfied that need for both, or that want for both. I think that's where Resident Evil shines and is at its best. Of course, Resident Evil started off as a horror game, really, right? That's it, right? You couldn't go around parrying enemies and drop-kicking enemies. There was none of that. It was a horror survivor game. It took a lot of calculation, precision, you know, just managing your resources well. So I don't think they should go forward with just another Leon game, even though I think that could be really good. I think that might make some people mad if they try to go for like the RE4 way again. Even though I think that would be a great game, I think maybe try to satisfy that want for having, you know, a horror element also in the game. Whether that means bringing back Leon and Grace together, or, you know, maybe Leon and somebody else, or Grace and somebody else, or even maybe just two other characters, right? That could fulfill this need or desire for a horror game and also an action game. Right now, I don't really have any specific want for the next Resident Evil game. I guess I am leaning more toward having Leon return in the next game, but apart from that, not much. Grace is an amazing character. I think she's one of the best that has been introduced lately in the Resident Evil franchise, and I don't think I'm alone in that opinion. So hopefully they don't just throw her in the vault and lock her away like they did with all these other characters, and hopefully she's, you know, kind of a reoccurring character in the series like Leon or Chris. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just wanted to kind of go over everything Resident Evil related in this video. 30 years later and this franchise is still going strong. How many franchises can say that? But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know how you felt about Resident Evil Requiem. I know you most likely enjoyed it. It seems the world overall gave this game like a 9 out of 10. Let me know what you want to see for a potential DLC for Requiem and moving forward in this series. And of course, if you guys enjoy the video, like it up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.